Monsters coming down the hall. Spires cover all the walls. Serial killer is on the line. Wants to know if you have the time. Aliens are landing soon. This will mean certain doom. A chainsaw sputters and comes alive. Blood and death are close behind. One thing you can be certain of, the zombies just can't get enough. Just one more bite is all they want. The ghosts downstairs are on the hunt. The Shade Chronicles are keeping score. That's what all the writing's for. They record their stories one by one so you don't miss all the fun.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Shade Chronicles, a podcast featuring short works of sci-fi and horror fiction. Here are your hosts.
Hi, this is Derek Leford.
Hi, this is Lawrence Trokey, and thank you for spending your time with us. Let's get started with our first story.
The Shade Chronicles are keeping score. That's what all the writing's for. They record their stories one by one so you don't miss all the fun.
And we're back. Kind of. Sort of. This is not the regular season, but
Yes.
we are going to talk about a favorite author of ours, actually two of them,
Yes.
and they happen to be related, but we don't know that yet. Well, we do, but anyway.
Well, we know that.
The
whole
we
world
do.
knows that.
We know the world knows that, but
I think
they
the
didn't-
paternity test has come back.
they didn't have to do that. But, and by the way, we should title this one Stephen King, Joe Hill, so we get more people that want to read it.
Right.
So we're going to discuss Stephen King and his son, we think, Joe Hill,
Yes.
because that is a big influence in, at least, well, for sure, movies in the sense of Stephen King.
Well, forget
But
that.
as far
It's an
as-
influence in us.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know?
For us, yes.
Yes.
And then I will go into Joe Hill, how he kind of influenced me and was later on in my life when I was older. But being a comic book collector, and same with Lawrence, we got into, both of them probably by comics to a point. But then again, there were books, and Stephen King wrote a lot,
Yeah.
and Joe Hill has wrote quite a bit. But we're going to kind of
I
discuss
have some
both.
facts.
Okay. Well, we're going to give Lawrence the time to talk about facts. Go,
Well,
Lawrence.
But first of all, hello. Good to see you again. It's
Hi,
been
good to see you.
We
Yeah.
actually haven't seen each other in a
We
while.
we have not. It's not like we took a day off and then we got back together. We have not seen each other in a while, and it's great to be here and hanging out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the other thing is, so it's the summer, right? We're taking a break, and a lot of folks are doing things over the summer, and reading is one of those things. And I one of the things that I haven't been able to do for many, many years is to read for enjoyment. Okay, because when I was a teenager and then young adult, I had time to do a lot of that stuff, and then life happens. You got
Yeah.
married, you got kids, you got work, you got all this kind of stuff, and I would do. I mean, wasn't like I wasn't reading at all, but
Right.
mostly the bulk of the reading I did was in those early years, and then sporadically over the decades, I'd get a book here, get a book there, and mostly books on tape, audiobooks, right? Because I'd have to be doing something while I'm reading.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you, at this point, like last month or so, whatever like that, have you not opened a paper book and read it?
Absolutely, I have.
Okay.
I have.
I have not. I have not. But here's my second question, and that's good that you did.
Yeah.
My thing is, do you read anything digital, like on a iPad or a Kindle or anything like that?
I did once, not that long ago, probably about 3-4 years ago, maybe. It could be longer than that.
Wow.
World War Z.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Max Brooks.
Max Brooks. I think, is that not Mel Brooks' son? I just put words together. It's just me. So what I'm going to say is, real quick, while you're pausing, I have not read a paper book in the sense of I read a lot in the evening, and I have not read a paper book in a long time. I do a Kindle, and I probably cheat by reading samples, but I do like the Kindle book And sometimes I have read 15 minutes and fall asleep. I have read 3 hours and then fell asleep. But it all depends on what it is. But I do like reading on digital devices now more than the paper ones. Even though I do buy the paper ones, I try to keep those. But anyway.
So back to the World War Z thing. So it's probably even longer than that. It's probably more like 7-8 years.
It's probably like 15 because we're old, but go ahead.
That I think the kids were using. And I'm like, okay, so they're not really using it. And I wanted to read a book. And I was like, I wanted to do the tablet thing. So I downloaded World War Z onto that and read it that way. And that's the only book I read on a tablet. So...
What'd you think of it? Did you like doing it on
I loved
that?
Book. That
Did
was,
you
mean
like
the experience of
the
the tablet?
experience of doing a tablet?
You know, it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. The tablet, unfortunately, was not a very expensive one.
Yeah.
So you had to make sure it was charged all the time. And
yeah, that's true.
so that's a little annoying. But the book that I actually put my hands on, well, we were just talking about the break and what we were doing over the break and that kind of thing. I was on vacation in Florida at the beach, and I took a book to read. And I like nonfiction, too. So the book I was reading was called Premonition by Michael Lewis. And it's about the pandemic and our response to the pandemic and how, whether it's the government and all the people that work in the government.
Well, you got to tell me you got to remind me what that one is again because I want to read that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the book, though, is it took it to the beach and it damn near destroyed it. I mean, because of the rain that happened every once in a while and just the sand and all this
Why are you
kind of
reading
stuff.
in the rain?
The book, well, I didn't mean to read it in the rain.
Okay, go ahead.
I couldn't say, hey, I'm going to read the book in the rain now. No, I was reading and suddenly it
I'm done
started
bothering you.
raining.
Go
I'm
ahead.
like, oh, shit, it's starting to rain and my book's getting wet. So the book is kind of fluffy now. It's kind of, you could use it as a pillow sometimes.
Yikes. I won't be borrowing that.
So, great book. And the problem is, I read the whole thing except for the last 20 pages. I haven't finished it yet. It's still sitting upstairs.
You don't know how the pandemic ends?
Well, I know how the pandemic ends, genius. I lived through it. But no, just this book. And it's an amazing book, by the way.
Cool.
Very, very good book if you want something to read. As a matter of fact, I was sitting on the beach, like second day, and this lady who was next to us in another chair or whatever saw what I was reading, and she goes, oh, what is that? I said, oh, this is about the pandemic. It's Michael Lewis's Premonition. And she said, oh, I'd love to read that. And I was going to give it to her when I was done with it, but then she left, and then I left.
Well,
So
you should mail her the pillow.
I have no idea who this woman is. It's not like she said, here's my card. So,
Okay.
but no, it's a great book. I didn't finish the last 20 pages, so I got to get to that at some point. But I came back, and then work happens, and now I'm busy with work.
Yep.
So, and
You know what I've never done? I've never stopped a book with 20 pages left. No matter if it's in the rain or a tornado, I never did.
Well, I'm not a quitter. I'm just
I understand.
procrastinating
I
a
got
little
you.
here.
I got you.
Trying to get stuff done. But in the meantime,
And
I
between
have,
time.
there were other books that were part of this. So on the drive down to Florida, I listened to The Life of Chuck,
Explain. I don't know that
which is a Stephen King story.
Oh.
It's from his series of short stories called If It Bleeds. Okay.
I think I missed that because
Yeah.
I love short
Oh my
stories,
God,
but go
this
ahead.
guy has written so much stuff.
Yeah.
Much stuff, it's easy to miss. But the reason I wanted to read that story, it's not a whole book, it's just a story in a book, is because of the movie that has been released, although limited release. And one of the problems is that, well, so I thought, hey, you know what? I've done this before with other movies that I knew were coming out. I'll read the book, and then I'll go see the movie. And I read the book, and I loved it. There were some things about it, which we'll talk about in a minute, that I'm a little uncertain by. And I wanted to go see the movie, and I looked up the times for it here in St. Louis, and it was like it's only showing at one theater in Missouri. In the entire state of Missouri is at one theater, and they're showing it at 9:20 a.m. in the morning.
So is it a short story that they're made a movie of?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Like a lot of his stories. A lot of his
Right.
short stories they made
Yeah.
movies out of.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So this one, it's called. It's from the series or from the anthology. If It Bleeds, there were a few other stories in that. Probably, I think it was like 4 stories.
Was it
in
all
that
his?
book. All his stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were. I guess you can kind of call them novellas, or something similar to that. I think that the technical definition of a novella is like 70 pages or something like that. And so this one was certainly long enough for that. It was from the reviews of the people who have seen the movie, and that's what I had to go on at first. It's a very life-affirming story. It's kind of like he wrote The Shawshank Redemption, or what is it called? The actual title is much longer than that. Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption is the actual title of that story. But then The Shawshank Redemption, became this movie that was a sleeper at first, and then just, everybody loves it. I mean, it's such a life-affirming, blah, blah, blah kind of story. And The Green Mile is kind of like that, too. And there's, Stand By Me, which was based on the short story The Body.
Yep. Yep.
That kind of thing. And again, another life-affirming kind of, even though there's an element of the macabre, if you will, in the story, it's still about people.
Let me tell you this real quick. I have one opinion about Stephen King. We'll get more into this too, but as far as Stephen King, I am a big fan of Stephen King. I love how he makes a world, and he has, and we'll talk more about that too. But my thing is with Stand By Me, it worked. It worked really well.
Yeah.
But I think, and a lot of people that I talk about Stephen King with, they love this part, but I'm just like, I just hate the inside conversations and the things they say and the this and that and the kind of quips they do and whatever like that. That stuff kind of takes me out of it more. And then I think
you wouldn't happen to have an example.
I do not have an example. I know that when the boys talk to each other in the movie and they're talking about certain things that they do, or they have certain things they say and things like that, it just kind of turns me off, because I didn't live then. I didn't live in the 50s or 60s. In the sense of knowing anything like that. So that's what kind of takes me out of it. And that's one of my downfalls of Stephen King. But I do respect it in the sense of that's the time it was, and that's the whole, the environment it was. So I understand it. I accept it. But
let me circle back to your concern, because I think you have a valid point.
All right, go ahead.
So, yes, Stephen King writes a lot of period pieces, okay? Most of those being...
I never thought of that, but you're right.
Most of those being from his timeline, from his life, right?
Right.
I mean, he's 77 years old, so he's obviously, lived through some of those times that we're talking about, and he draws on his... I'm sure he draws on his experience living through those times to help him create the stories and the community that we see these characters exist in. So very prolific writer. I believe my research shows that he's written like 65 books and novellas.
Wow.
And not to mention all the stuff that spawned, like tons of movies that were based on his work, whether it's short stories or whether it's some of the novels. And, of course, there are some comics, some comic book stuff that we would definitely have paid attention to. I mean, Creepshow being probably the one that we were most drawn to.
That's what made me a big fan of his when he did that. I mean, even though I knew he had novels and he did really good with novels and really good stories, and I love a lot of the stories and things like that. But then when he got into the comic book stuff, I was just like, awesome. I mean, I even liked the Creepshow movie.
Yeah,
they did great with that.
I thought it was, and again, Creepshow movie being another one of those kind of anthologies, right? Or the comic, again, bunch of short stories in this setting.
Right.
Just so you know, I'm sure everyone knows who Stephen King is, but I'm just going to name off some of the work that's probably one of the things that he's most recognized for. Salem's Lot.
Oh.
And I got to be honest, never read it, never saw the movie.
What?
I know.
Are you crazy? Really?
I need to do
Oh,
this.
my goodness. I never read it, but I saw the movie.
Carrie, I also missed that one. Cujo, I think I read the book, but it's been so long since I did that.
I've seen Carrie the movie and Cujo the movie.
Really?
I didn't read the books.
Yeah. So, the Dark Tower series, I've read some of those. Dr. Sleep, I have not read, or I don't think there's anything out there in terms of TV or movie Firestarter. I believe I read the book and saw the movie, although it's been so long since I've done either of those. I do remember the movie because of the visuals. Don't necessarily remember the book as well. Green Mile.
Great movie.
It.
Great
Misery.
movie.
If you remember Misery. And then I said The Shawshank Redemption. Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption is the title of the actual.
Let me interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
I think Misery for me
Yeah.
was the one that kind of got me into really wanting to do short story kind of things.
Yeah.
Because the other ones are like so advanced and so like Dark Tower and It and what's the other one with the it's the one with the guy that's the crow.
The Stand.
The Stand.
Yeah,
Stand.
that I didn't get to that. It's on the list.
I'm sorry. So, well, I'll just we can edit.
Yeah.
So, or you can.
You
so
can stop
this-
saying edit because I'm gonna have to edit everything you say that's edit.
Okay. So the Stand was a big one too, but
Every time you mention edit, I gotta edit that.
okay, the Stand was good. But then as far as the smaller ones like Misery, it was like a spot in time
Yeah.
that something happened to somebody. And it could have been more leading up to it and more after it.
Sure.
But he just took that little nugget of time.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that kind of got me into
I'm trying to
them.
remember if Misery was written after his accident, because he had that accident where he was walking along the side of the road and somebody hit him with a van or something like that.
Right.
And it messed him up big time. I'm trying to remember if that occurred before he wrote Misery and maybe was some of the inspiration for what he wrote in the book Misery.
Right.
Yeah, that I loved Misery. I thought that was a great story. The Shining. Okay.
Classic.
Red Rum.
Yeah.
And The Stand, of course. The Stand is probably my favorite out of everything that he's done. And even with that, we were talking about, you were mentioning earlier about how some of the things in some of the pieces that he does, where they're talking maybe period-specific stuff or whatever, kind of takes you out of it. That's something I think is a valid concern in some ways, that he draws on so much of the history of maybe the stuff that he's lived through.
Yeah, and then I think also it's the
Yeah.
history of those characters in that moment, like those boys that are the way they talk in the movies and stuff like that, like Stand By Me.
Right.
The way they say stuff, the way they have their ideas and stuff. It puts you in the moment,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really do much for me story-wise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to each his own as far as that goes.
Right.
So as far as what I would think about Stephen King and his characters and their character development, I think that's where he really shines personally.
Agreed.
And that's what I enjoy most is
Oh, yeah.
the characters he creates and how they take on a life of their own.
And I love how he keeps that character in that world. He
Yeah.
keeps that character in that personality.
Right.
It doesn't matter what happens, but
Right.
he takes it to it. Like thinking back to It, even the TV show that was out, that was like a 2-day TV show or two episode TV show, not just the movies. He puts those people in that situation, and those people keep that personality, even though they may want to change it because they're scared or things change, but they kind of keep it. I like that.
Yeah. Well, and It is one of those examples of a story that when we talk about, we love Stephen King. We are fans of Stephen King.
Yes.
But we are not true believers in everything that he does.
Correct.
And we both feel that there are some things that could have been done. Now, granted, who are we to criticize a guy who's had as much success as he's had, has spawned so much creative output and things that have come from that, but yet
We are the Shade Chronicles, and we can say what we want.
right. Sure, I think
We have an
though,
opinion.
In fairness, we're not approaching this as googly-eyed fanboys.
Nope.
Okay, and in preparation for this talk that we're having, I went and listened to a couple of podcasts that I just found randomly to try to get some insight from somebody else about some of the things that I was listening to and reading at the time in preparation for this podcast.
Okay.
And of the two podcasts that are completely different sources of people and things, both of them were just fawning over Stephen King.
Yeah.
Like he was fucking God.
Yeah,
And he could do no wrong.
Yeah,
And even when he did something wrong,
yeah,
it wasn't wrong.
sure.
I mean, they just could not acknowledge or could not come clean with an honest opinion about these things that were flaws, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, all of that said, I can sit here and go on for a while about the flaws that I see in his work. But I think the thing that would justify my appreciation for him, despite all of this criticism I might have, is that I understand he's a person. He's a regular guy. He has his flaws, at least in terms of the things that I see in his writing. Again, I'm nobody to judge, but it's just my personal preference and opinion.
Right.
How, when I'm going down a road and I'm expecting to turn right, and he kind of makes a slight left, and it doesn't quite seem like it works. And then he makes another left, and I'm like, well, wait, should we get back over to the right? Those kind of things. And I'll give you some concrete examples here in a second. But the way these people were just fawning over him and just gushing about how wonderful and amazing. I mean, yes, he is an amazing author, has done a tremendous body of work, and should win lots of awards and be recognized as one of the greats. And in 100 years from now, his name will be up there with Mark Twain and those kind of guys. I mean, he will be recognized as one of the greats. But there's stuff in his work that we're going to talk about in some ways that irks us.
Yeah, but my thing, I want to say this real quick. I agree with you. I mean, I'm not going to gush on him. I mean, I think he's great. I think he has made a step in this world of literature, mainly in horror, mainly in my influence and your influence, that we take stuff from that and whatever like that. But there's things that we are not 100% into because that's not how we would do it, and that's not how we want to experience it. But I am not going to take away what he's done, the impression he's made on the literary world, in the sense of what he's done over beyond horror, but just how he's done and what he's done successfully.
Yeah, right. So, for me, things that if I wanted to get kind of more detailed, I'm going to take The Life of Chuck, for instance, because that one is very contemporary with the release of the movie, even though I can't go see it because it's at 9:20 a.m. in the morning at one theater in town. So I'm going to see it when it hits streaming for sure. I wanted to see it in a theater. Don't know what happened. It was a limited release, so on and so forth. So, but The Life of Chuck, again, this is me listening to it on an audiobook. So, and I did this on the way down to Florida. And Becky, my wife, was with me on the drive, and she enjoyed the story too. So the thing about The Life of Chuck, and I'll tell you kind of a brief synopsis since you're not familiar with it. So the story starts in the beginning with a modern-day world and a guy who is a teacher, and he's divorced, and he's doesn't have any kids living with him. He's living alone.
So he lives in paradise. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Awkward. And so what we start to learn about his world and the things going on in his world is things are starting to shut down. Things are starting not to work. Things are breaking down. The internet isn't working all the time when we get introduced to this guy at the beginning of the story. And there are problems in California, like there are major earthquakes happening, and California is slowly sinking into the ocean. And, all the doomsday scenarios that, you got the California thing, and you got the fires, across the Midwest, and all this kind of stuff. So things are going wrong in this world. And, he's trying to cope with it and deal with it. And while he's working his way through his day, he keeps seeing these signs and mentions of this guy Charles Krantz all over town, like billboards and TV commercials and radio commercials, that kind of thing. And it says, 39 great years. Thanks, Chuck. And he doesn't know who this guy is. And at first he's looking at him. He's wearing a suit, all this kind of stuff in the picture. He's like, oh, okay, it must be some guy retiring. Okay. And he hooks up with some other people in the story, and they ask, hey, do you know who this Chuck guy is? And no. So I guess whoever he's retiring from must really think a lot of him because they got all these messages all over town.
Right.
Well, slowly but surely, the things in this day in this world get worse. There's this giant sinkhole that opens up in the middle of town and takes like 30 cars with it, and bridges are collapsing and the electric's going out, and this guy, Marty Anderson is his name. He decides, he has a conversation with his ex-wife, and you can tell there's still some attraction there. There's still some, we only did this because we thought we had to, blah, 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 and that kind of thing. And he's like, I'm gonna go see her. I'm gonna be with her, while things are going crazy and chaotic. And so, the other thing I forgot to mention is that the way this story is told, it's told in reverse. It starts with basically the end, and then it works its way back to the beginning. What's that?
Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
I love that.
Although, as you're going backward, there's throwbacks to the
Right.
end to try to tie things up and connect things.
So at the beginning of the story, where it's going to go, but then they tell you how they got there. Kind of.
Well, that's
maybe.
kind of my complaint.
Oh,
okay.
Here we go.
So you got all these signs about, thanks, Chuck, for 39 great years. You've got lots of shit going wrong and going badly. I mean, and multiple things happening all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And so Marty goes to his ex-wife's house, and as he gets there, all the power goes out, and suddenly this guy's image, this Chuck's image, starts appearing in all these people's windows, like a glowing image.
Weird.
Kind of thing. Yeah, so this is the creepy part.
Yeah.
And so he gets to his ex-wife, and he's like, oh, my God, I'm so glad we made it together. And they're talking about all this crazy stuff. And they decide to spend some time together, and they're sitting on the porch, and they're looking out at the sky, and it's like, what is going on? What's happening? Who's this Chuck guy? Why is his image appearing in all these windows and stuff like that? And then they're looking at the night sky, and all the stars go out.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I did not know they had batteries. Go.
Yeah. So spoiler alert. Sorry about that. So
you read it now.
Right as this part's happening, you get a glimpse inside a hospital room where Chuck Krantz is dying in his hospital bed from a brain tumor.
Oh.
And his relatives are there, and something is mentioned. I don't know if it's in this third act or if it's in the second act. I can't remember. Yeah, so it says the end of the universe is revealed to be connected to 39-year-old Chuck, who's bedridden in a hospital while dying from a brain tumor. He's accompanied by his wife, Ginny, and his son, Brian. Chuck passes away as Jeannie tells him 39 great years. Thanks, Chuck. Meanwhile, Marty tells Felicia, that's his ex-wife, that's the teacher and his ex-wife who are on that porch, I love you, just as the universe abruptly ends. Okay?
Whoa.
So then...
So Chuck is connected to the universe.
Well, hang on.
No, I'm just... What you told me. I'm just saying what you told me. Yeah.
So then we go to the next section, which is Chuck like 9 months before he dies or something like that. And he's at a conference in another city, and he's walking down the street, and he encounters a busker, a guy playing music on the side of the road, who's a percussion guy, a drummer, and he encounters that, and he's really digging the music and all this. And at the same time, there's this woman who you get introduced to in this section, and she just broke up with her boyfriend, and the boyfriend's an asshole, and all this kind of stuff, and she's upset, and she's walking, comes to the same intersection where Chuck and the busker is, and Chuck starts dancing. totally out of
magic
character
happens
because
right
he's an
there.
accountant. He's a button-down kind of guy. And so, anyway, what ends up happening is this dance thing happens with him and this woman while this busker's playing,
ritual.
and they have such a great time. They have such a great time. It's totally out of character for Chuck, but he enjoys it, and she enjoys it, and they're all just kind of afterwards, really like, wow, that was amazing. That was great. Good job. And Chuck, you learn in this section, had, as he was a teenager and a young adult in a band, he was kind of like the lead man or front man for the band, kind of like a Mick Jagger-ish kind of guy.
We call him Chuckster.
What's that?
We call him Chuckster.
Chuckster. He's the Chuckster. So, and he used to dance with one of the guy's sisters in the band who, thought he was a dork, but still danced with him because he knew how to dance and he could dance pretty well.
Oh, Chuck.
And he was something he really, really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
And then that section goes from that section to the first section, which is the last part of the story, where Chuck is a kid, and you learn that his parents and his unborn sister get killed in a car accident when he's like, 6 or 7. He has to go live with his grandparents, and his grandparents take care of him. His grandmother is the one who teaches him how to dance. In this section, he's introduced to, or he's in school at the last day of school, and his teacher, one of his teachers, who he's really fond of, mentions to him this concept of, at school, Chuck asked his idealistic teacher, Miss Richards, the meaning of the phrase, "I contain multitudes," from a Walt Whitman poem, Song of Myself. Richards explains to Chuck that he contains multitudes with the memories he gains over the course of his life, forming a universe in his head. And so what's actually happening is at the beginning, the universe that's dying is Chuck's universe.
Right.
Okay.
Not our universe, Chuck's universe in his head. The story's about that kind of to a point. Yeah.
But the problem I have,
I can't wait to hear what you hate about it. Go ahead.
Well, so anyway, let me finish up the first
Hate's
section.
a strong word. Go
Let
ahead.
me finish up the first section. Again, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't read the story. Seen the
You
movie.
should read it.
Yeah, you should have read it by now. Anyway, there's a thing that happens in the first section where there's a room upstairs, apparently in this house of his grandparents. It's an attic, actually. And Grandpa doesn't let anybody go up there, and he keeps the room locked. And he says there's something weird about it. And I think he even has an episode while he's up there. So, spoiler alert again, grandparents pass away. And Chuck's at the house.
Oh,
He's,
I gotta leave
in
now
his
because the grandparents died. Yeah.
he's in his, late teens, early 20s. And he
He's
goes
in
into
he's
this
in their
room.
house. I'm sorry. I
Yeah, he's
apologize.
living there still.
Okay, go.
So he goes to see what's in this attic. He's never been up there. It's been locked. He opens the door. After the funeral, he goes right up there, goes to check it out. And in it, he has a vision of himself in the hospital bed dying. Ooh. Okay? And so at that moment, he's like, whatever happens, I'm going to live my life however long I've got. I'm going to just do it.
Yeah,
And
so he saw his end, and he's going to live his life.
He's just going to put that behind him, not think about it, and just keep going. So, but, so yes, it's kind of this beautiful idea about, I contain multitudes. I have all these memories and all these experiences. They make up a universe. The thing that I have issue with is that at the beginning, you really think it's the universe dying. You really think it's the world ending, right?
Okay.
Because California's sinking to the ocean, and there's tornadoes, and there's hurricanes, and then there's forest fires, and all these things. Everything is ending, and people are dying, and the internet's going away. It's so literal, okay, that by the time you get to this concept of it's not really the universe for real dying, it's just Chuck's universe,
okay, hold
Chuck's
on.
memories and things dying.
You don't like it because you were tricked?
I feel a little tricked.
Well, I get that, but
I feel a little tricked.
I don't know. Yeah, I get it. I get what
I mean,
you're saying.
you could take the opposite opinion if you
No,
want.
I do have a different opinion because I like those kind of things because I would like it to be tricked because I like those kind of things like that there. But my thing with him more or less would be not really tricking me, but just taking me on an adventure to where I didn't experience, I can't relate to it type of thing, like with the words and stuff like that.
Sure.
But to be honest with you, I do disagree with you because I think that's a kind of a cool concept.
Well, and let me say this. Overall, I enjoyed the book. Overall, I really still want to see the movie, even though I do feel it's kind of a bullshit thing at the beginning. And here's why. If this was literally Chuck's universe that was dying, okay, shouldn't the people in this universe know Chuck? They didn't know Chuck. They didn't have any fucking clue who this guy is on the billboards and on the TV and all that. And if this is some world in Chuck's subconscious that is slowly collapsing, and his subconscious makes his death to be, out to be some kind of dreamlike, literal end of the world event, and so he's literally imagining the world ending as he's dying. I get that, but shouldn't somebody in this universe know who the fuck Chuck is? Because it's Chuck's universe. Right?
Yeah.
He's literally God in this universe.
Kind of give you an insight
Yeah.
to what's actually going on. Yeah, I get what you're saying there. I do like those kind of things. I like whenever it comes out of nowhere type of thing like that, because like a lot of stories I write is kind of like that. I mean, I have a story I'm doing right now. I have
the same problem with you. I'm just kidding.
I know. I have a story right now that I'm doing for the podcast. And I like my stories not having an complete ending, but a twist to where it's like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Oh, now what happens? Type of thing like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, it's different.
See, a story like Misery has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it all makes sense. It connects perfect, right? Even the book that I love the most out of all the stuff, The Stand, I have problems with. Because you got characters like Randall Flagg, okay, who show up in other works of his, and he's kind of the big bad of Stephen King's universe. But you really don't know who the fuck he is either.
Yeah.
Is he the devil? Is he a minion of the devil? Is he some super evil spirit? I mean, you don't really get. And honestly, as I was reading some stuff up on him, because all I really know about Randall Flagg is from The Stand and the little bit of Dark Tower stuff that I read.
Right.
And I'm kind of like, well, wait a minute. How does Randall Flagg go from being in initially the book was in the 70s, being in a 70s novel about the end of the world, a pandemic, and then he shoots over into this other universe where everything's kind of different and all this? I don't get it. But, and again, maybe it's because I'm too literal. I just need more connection, more connective tissue to explain some of these things.
I know one thing. You and I have been writing together for it's now 3 years.
Yeah.
And you see the stuff I write and things like that, and you've come back to me with that type of thing. To be like, why? Why is this happening? Why is it? And 99% of the time it makes sense. I'm wanting to, I know that you don't want the final reveal in the sense of you're okay with a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I know you're okay with a cliffhanger.
Sure.
But getting to that cliffhanger might be a little different for you than me in the sense of where are we at with this, because that thing you're talking about, I would be actually okay with.
Yeah. Well, so for instance, I don't like shortcuts or assumptions, and I think that's kind of the shoddiness or the critique that I would have of some of the stuff that happens. Like in It, let's talk about It for a second.
Go ahead.
The premise of It at the beginning is beautiful. Great idea. Great story. These people who come together over the town being terrorized by this whatever this is in the form of Pennywise, the evil clown, which is just diabolical, by the way, to really play on people's fears.
By the way, all the
clowns.
Pennywise that have played in anything with Stephen King's It have been great to me.
Yeah. So, that whole thing and all of that. But the problem I have with It is that there are some tangents you go on in there that don't make sense. And then at the end, so again, I like the idea of these band of people that get together, the losers. They come together and they understand that there's this evil in town and that they're going to fight it. And that, they understand that it's only there for a short amount of time. Then it goes into hibernation for 28 years, whatever it is. And then they come back as adults. And then they all have to reconnect in as adults and deal with this thing again.
So what's the disconnect you don't like on it?
I like all of that. But so the ending, okay? The ending of it.
No, because it's a spider. But
it's a fucking spider.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
sorry.
from space.
Spoiler
Okay?
alert.
It's a fucking spider from space.
It got ridiculous. Yeah.
I mean,
I
was
give
all
you
of
that.
these horrible things
Yeah.
throughout the rest of the novel, and the best we could come up with at the end is that it's a fucking spider from space.
I give you that. That's ridiculous.
That's a shitty ending.
Yeah.
So even after that, after they conquer the spider and the things, how things kind of wrap up and all that, I kind of like that. And I liked the majority of the book. But when I figured out what this thing really was, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Really? That's what this is?
Yeah.
We couldn't come up with a better idea?
Yeah.
So all of that said, I still enjoyed the book mostly. I'm not trying to be a fanboy and fawn all over.
I got you.
But that was a serious flaw that kind of put me off it.
I completely agree with the whole spider thing.
Yeah.
I do completely. Like I'm working on one now, to where I want an ending to be really good because it's more of a horror story, and I want it to make sense to me and not be out of the. I don't want to write to where it's like, okay, I got this, I got some good story, I got some good dialogue, whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, what's the thing at the end that's going to be? Oh, it's a spider from space. No, I'm not going to do that.
Please don't do that.
That is, no, I will never do that. Because if I do, then you're going to be like, rewrite.
Yes.
So my thing is, I don't like that either.
Yeah. So, there was a couple. So, and let me talk about a more contemporary work, something a little newer. I think this is from last year. You Like It Darker. Okay. I bought that book for two reasons. One, because it's Stephen King. Okay. And I had a little time finally coming back into my life to where I could start reading books and enjoying them. And two, we're doing the podcast. We're writing short stories. And it's like, wait a minute, this is like his latest collection of short stories. Mm-hmm. This is perfect. I can read his short stories and kind of get some inspiration,
Right.
and kind of see how the master does it, and try to learn at his feet, right?
Yeah, but unfortunately, the master crapped the bed.
Yeah, I wasn't
I get
crazy
it.
about it.
I read it
There
too,
are some good stories in there. Don't get me wrong.
Sure,
there are
sure.
some good stories. The two bastards, or two talented bastards, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah.
There are some good things in there.
Yeah.
But again, I wasn't really super crazy about that story. Although I did tell you, after I read that story, it reminded you of me and you, two guys here slaving away, trying to do something creative, and just, nothing's catching fire and nothing's really going anywhere.
That's the podcast.
So, yeah, for sure. The four people who are listening to this can relate. So,
and we're two of them.
yeah. But, there were other stories in there that were very good. I just remember recently The Answer Man, which was one of the stories in there. And that was kind of a period piece. Again, we're kind of going back into the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, covering those decades. But still, very Stephen King-ish in terms of, meeting this guy at the side of the road, and the guy has the answers and doesn't quite give all the answers that you need, and leaves some things ambiguous and so on. Still a good story.
Yeah.
But, so there was some stuff in there that I was just a little less than excited about, and that was a little disappointing. But his character development and the way he has his characters interact and in their environment, very well done.
Even though I've crapped on in this podcast right now the dialogue and stuff that he says that I'm not into, that I don't understand, that I'm not interested in, whatever like that. they say what they say. The characters are the way the characters are. And I love that how he does that type of stuff like that. There's been a lot of times and a lot of stories where, and I may have done it myself with writing, that at the end, it ends up being, it's like we got all this involved, we got all this stuff to us, we got all this told us, we're in this environment. Like I said, I love environments. We're in this world, we're in whatever like that, and then all of a sudden it's like, what? A spider? At the very end of it, it's like, was that like Monday you had to turn in at 3 and it's 2:30 you put a spider in?
Yeah,
That's what I don't want. Yeah, that's what I would rather not. I mean, I probably have. I'm not crapping on Stephen King, but I probably have done it. But I try to put something at the end of it to where it kind of either brings it together or kind of keeps you
Right.
like a cliffhanger thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so we've talked about Stephen King quite a bit. Why don't we switch to Joe Hill, because that was the other person we were going to talk about. And I will admit that I haven't read much of his stuff at all. I just started his book, what is it? Oh, hell, I know it.
Nosferatu.
Well, I just started that one. I'm like, really early in it.
So I got some stuff here. My notes I have. I want to let you guys know.
Tell me about Joe Hill.
So I'm not going to be as in-depth as you probably were there, but I was introduced to Joe Hill when I picked up 20th Century Ghosts, which is a collection of 14 short stories. Now, I don't know if those were all Joe Hill's for sure. I mean, maybe you can look that up, but it was a really good short story thing because I'm really into short stories because I like how people develop the short story stuff and how they take it to the beginning to the end, because that's one of the things I like, because I've never really wrote a long story. But I do like how that whole book was. And again, I've not read.
It looks like it's all his.
Okay, I've not read Nosferatu. The biggest thing too was I never needed to know this because I got into him more than just the way he was.
Yeah.
So I never got into him like. I never really cared. It was an author named Joe Hill, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll read his stuff.
Right.
And I liked the stuff he had, and I read it, and I never really cared that he was Stephen King's son. I mean, if I didn't know that today, I'd still be fine. He'd be one of my favorite authors. Sure. And then after I read that short story one, I read Heart-Shaped Box and Horns by Joe Hill. Mm-hmm. And those are both good. I think Horns was a movie made into a movie, but I don't remember it as much as I do Heart-Shaped Box. Heart-Shaped Box I really liked. That was a good novel that I read. And then I found out that Joe Hill, which still I just know his name at this point. Yeah. I don't know anything about Stephen King. I don't really care. Right. Was the writer of a comic book series called Lock and Key. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which became a Netflix show, which was really good. I loved the books. The books were great. The artwork was so great. It wasn't his, but it was another, artist. Yeah. And this is probably when I found out he was Stephen King's son. Okay. Because I don't know why, but I mean, just they said he was, and I was like, oh, cool. Okay, whatever. Yeah. It didn't really matter because he's
pleasant surprise.
Yeah. In my opinion, he made his own on his own. So I was cool with that. And I think that's kind of something he wanted to do because his older brother, Owen, was an author, and he wrote some stuff. Also, his sister, I don't know if his sister did or not, but I know his mom did. Okay. But then Joe was someone that, which I think is awesome because I have a kid and I have grandkids. Mm-hmm. I have sons and I have a grandkid. And so I was really liking how he kind of went into it. But I love so much how he went on his own type of thing. Even though he did stuff with his dad, I think that he did his own thing. And I liked his own stuff because it kind of related to me, even though, I'm probably closer to Stephen King's age and Joe Hill's age. Right. I really got into Joe Hill, his stories and things like that.
Well, and, again, I'm no expert. And so it's Nosferatu. Yeah. So it's I believe the way you pronounce that.
We've tried 15 times, but go ahead.
Yeah. So it's basically a license plate thing.
Yeah, you got it right.
But what I've noticed so far in the bit that I've been reading about him, his story in that Nosferatu, he seems to have the same kind of command of building an environment
Yes.
and putting characters in it.
Agreed.
And I think his character development so far, although it's early for me, is still on par with his dad's. Not that we have to compare the two,
Sure.
but certainly one of the things we praise Stephen King about is his character development, and he's Joe Hill's no slouch on that either. One of the things I do notice is that he tends to be a lot more descriptive, I think, in the moment about things that are happening.
Which, by the way, I really like.
Yeah.
Do you like that?
I like it too.
Yeah.
It's nice.
They can be long in the tooth at times,
But
it's not bad because he takes me. He goes on to it, and then all of a sudden he at the point where I'm like, okay, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, here we go.
Right.
I like how he kind of takes me to the.
Yeah, for me, I'm a visual person in some ways. I have a pretty vivid imagination, and when I'm listening to or reading books, I can picture the environments, picture the details as they're being described to me, and the more content that I have to work with, my imagination has to work with,
Exactly.
the deeper, more serious the story becomes, and the whole thing becomes. Yeah, very descriptive, and I do hear the same voice or a similar. I know this is probably if Joe Hill was, hearing this and comparing him to his dad, he'd probably be, oh man, why do you got to do that? But
No, hold on. He should like that because his dad is a great author and stuff like that.
Sure,
but
sure.
I do have to say, I agree with you 100%, but he has his own voice to a point.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah.
Like I said, the descriptive nature of his narratives, as far as I can tell from the little bit I've experienced so far, is different. But there is a similar attitude.
Oh, yeah.
Similar attitude in some of the ways.
Yeah, because it works.
That he gets into the heads of his characters and how he takes on their skin and communicates what's happening through their perspective, their lens. That's one of the things I love about the author Elmore Leonard, who's not a horror guy by any stretch, crime novels. He can get into the skin of his characters. And again, we see the world through the lens of their interpretation of it.
Right.
And it's just powerful stuff. And that's, I think, what both King and Hill do very well.
Right. And this is not part of our conversation, but Dean Koontz.
Yeah.
He is another author that really gets into the whole weeds of a mental thing of the person and what they're experiencing along with seeing in the situations. And he has done stuff to where he's written situations and then all of a sudden you got a character in the situation and you hear and you feel what they're dealing with and stuff like that. And that is something that really brings me into the whole conversation. I don't need it forever. At some point, with to be honest with Dean Koontz, it gets a little bit too much for me.
Okay.
But I do like how he kind of does that and brings me in that situation to where I know what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And it really has an effect on me when I'm reading.
Okay. Well, yeah. So that's a sign of an effective author.
Yes.
For sure. Something we aspire to. For sure.
So he did the Lock and Key, and I really liked that. That was a really good story. I mean, it's been really good. And then he has another comic series, which I have not read, and it's called The Cape.
Oh, yeah. I saw some images of
And there's a lot
that
of...
That looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of comics on that, and I would like to read that type of thing at some point. And then it's been... I don't know when The Cape came out. But after The Cape is probably when I got my Kindle. And I was looking at my Kindle and I was looking at stuff. And I knew Joe Hill was Stephen King's son, didn't really give a crap. But I knew Joe Hill did Lock and Key.
Yeah.
So I was looking up Joe Hill. And then I found out that he does a lot of stuff with short stories. And that's what really hooked me on him was how he started with short stories with 20th Century Ghost. But my thing is, he did a lot of short stories after that, and I really, I don't know. I appreciate that because that's just my genre.
Yeah.
I love doing short stories, even though I want to do long stories. I love the genre part of the short stories because I like whenever they kind of bring me in, and maybe they start in the beginning or they start in the middle, and then all of a sudden they take me through an adventure, and then all of a sudden they end it, and I'm just like, awesome. So he did. He was part of a short story collection called Creature Feature, and he has one of the stories in there. So basically, here's what it is. He is a guy, lives with his wife, whatever like that, and he finds an old baby carriage. This is Stephen King all over the place right here.
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? And he ends up taking that, and he goes down to town through the woods and stuff like that. And he has things that happen to him in the woods, and it's very mental kind of stuff like that. And it's a really good short story. But then all the other ones on Creature Feature are actually, some of them are better than his story, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to look at. And then, so actually, I find him very inspiring because he does so well with short stories and novellas that speak to me. But his novel, I've read one. His novel's good. I'm sure he's got other novels that are good.
Sure.
And I really like his structure of the stories. I like how he does characters and things like that. So I realize he's learned a lot from his dad and his dad's writing. But I also understand that he's got his own voice, and he's able to speak to me differently than Stephen King does.
Yeah, for sure. So we're coming up now on an hour in terms of our commentary on Stephen King and Joe Hill.
And one more announcement.
Yes.
We're possibly going to go see Joe Hill at a library close to town.
That's right. Yeah,
So
we got
we-
tickets to an event at a library in October.
So we may have to review his book he's going to have there, and maybe we will talk to him. I don't know.
Oh, now you're shooting for the moon now. Yeah, so that is coming up on Derek and Lawrence's personal calendar.
Yes.
So we will let you know how that went when we get to that time. I'm sure we'll be in the midst of the second half of the podcast season of season 3, and we'll have opportunity to mention something about that in our commentary around that time.
And we have a ton, in the sense of the second season, a ton of other authors that are writing stuff that is awesome. And it's going to be, it's still the continuation of a great season here, season 3, of having other authors that are writing stuff, and we'll be able to just share that with you because they're good. The stories are good.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's been a great time having other people contribute.
Yeah, and I'll say that coming into season 3 and knowing some of the stuff in my personal life that I've got dealing with, nothing critical, nothing tragic, just a lot of things going on, a lot of busyness with work and with my kids and their lives and the stuff that they're doing. So for me, coming into season 3 was kind of like, oh man, we gotta come up with something. And thank God we had all these contributors that wanted to participate. And I'm like, oh, shoo, I can take the load off a little bit and kind of coast here and let these other folks tell their stories and be great stories and enjoy them and that kind of thing. But as I'm going along, I'm being inspired by all of the creativity and great ideas that we are encountering, not just with the stories that were submitted for the podcast, but also when we sat down and talk about Stephen King and Joe Hill and hearing their stories again or reviewing some of their stuff again. Ideas are popping.
Yeah,
in my head.
Yeah.
And I was telling you before we got on the mics here that I've got at least 6 ideas.
Sweet.
That I'm ready to do something with. Now, they may not make it all into season 3, but the nice thing is that I'm being refreshed. I'm being refreshed by having all these folks being a part of this podcast and also having the opportunity now to go out and start reading again and start enjoying this stuff again. So I'm very excited about where things are going creativity-wise. It may not be that a lot of folks put their eyeballs on it or get to see it, but it's a nice form of therapy for me, if nothing else, to help me release some tension and deal with some of the, grind that is daily life.
Yes,
So,
I agree. I think with my thing with this whole podcast, it's been a way for me to get out there my thoughts and my stories, which I loved. The first 2 seasons were us, and it was great. And I am so happy that we have subscribers now and contributors. Sorry, bad word. Yeah. Contributors.
We'd love more subscribers, and if you want to subscribe, please do.
I'm glad we have more contributors, and I am very happy that they have written the stories that they wrote, and almost all of them that were sent to us, we took because they were just awesome, and they very much inspired me. And
Yes.
This conversation here, and going back to be able to remember what brought me here, is something. I mean, from comic books to movies to other books, to other authors and stuff like that. Not even the authors we talked about, and the authors that are, contributing. Those have all inspired me, and it's been a great thing for me in a sense of mentally and being able to continue this going, because I want this to go on for a long time. I want to be able to, give everybody our stories and be able to have other people have stories on here to where they're vocalized in the sense of, they wrote their story, they know it's good, it's in a book, someone's going to read it. We're able to have somebody read it. We're able to do this, like, this kind of thing here. So I think this is something that is really good for everybody, including us, and I'm really happy with how we've been at this point.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up now, because we've taken a lot of your time. If you get a chance to check out some of the works that we talked about and you have some opinions about them that you'd like to share, feel free to make a comment on the podcast, or shoot us an email, that kind of thing, or message us through Facebook, our Facebook page. We would love to hear what your thoughts are on some of these things that we've talked about today. But otherwise, we've got still a few weeks before the second half of Season 3 kicks back in. So in the meantime, we hope you enjoy the rest of your summer, and we will see you in just a short while.
Thank you very much for listening, and we will talk to you soon.
Take care. Thanks again for listening to the Shade Chronicles. For comments or inquiries, you can contact us at shadechron@gmail.com. That's SHADECHRON@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also get more information at theshadechronicles.com. The Shade Chronicles Podcast is the creative property of Derek Leffridge and Lawrence Trokey. Any attempt to replay for broadcast or distribution portions of any episode of the Shade Chronicles without the prior written consent from the creators and/or significant compensation is strictly prohibited. Shame on you for even thinking about it in the first place. Thanks again for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of the Shade Chronicles.